always do that. I'm a night rider. Every time that I call past midnight, I swear I get higher. Swear I gotta get higher now. I'm a night rider. Every time that I give what I got, I supply that fire. I supply that fire. What's going on, bookworms, and welcome back to the 65th edition of Bookmarks with Bump. The second edition in video. I learned some things last week, as we're constantly doing here. We're constantly learning. That's part of what the podcast is. Some of the audio didn't come through on the videos that I was playing for y'all last week. Take a note of that moving forward. And now that I have some time here, I'm going to try and understand how to present these things better as the podcast progresses forward. But here we are, second week of video, 65th episode of Bookmarks with Bump. What is Bookmarks with Bump? It is a social commentary podcast of sorts, a health and fitness podcast where I compile the greatest threads on Twitter while I'm at work, on the toilet, and don't have the time to scroll through these threads. What is a thread, you may ask? It's a series of tweets that are strung along together. Usually it's focused on one topic, and those are the threads that I find. I bookmark, I store them away on the shelf, and say to myself, one day I'll go through these and I'll have the time to read them. That time never really pops up for me, especially with my busy and active lifestyle. I never really do put aside time to just sit and scroll through my phone. So what do I decide to do? With all this recording equipment I have, make a podcast. Why not? Everybody's got one. Why shouldn't I? What makes me somebody who should have a podcast? Well, as your host, Sean Bump Cote, endurance runner, 8 years sober, California sober, alcoholic, drug addict, whatever. Not really what I tout myself upon. What I tout myself upon is endurance running, tool setting, a tradesman in the state of CT, a journeyman, if you will, a jack of all trades and a master of some. I have completely redesigned and rebuilt my life, and a lot of people out there need to do the same things that I did in order to move myself forward, and themselves forward. So this is what the podcast is all about. This is very similar to what Road to the Race was all about. If you know me from my older YouTube days when I was vlogging my very first races, this is a little bit different, but this is a little bit more tuned in. A nationally accredited certified personal trainer, journeyman, endurance runner, bringing to you all of the glory. Well, at least trying to deliver you some things you can do to deliver them to yourself. What is it that makes this podcast go? Well, it's the threads, that's for sure, but it's also the life that I lead, the life that I live. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different than most. Why? Well, I'll tell you why right now. Because it's race week. As you're hearing this, this will come out September 7th. Bookmarks with Bump, up at 4 a.m., so you know it's up when you are. Bookmarks with Bump, out on September 7th. The September 7th episode is coinciding with the September 7th second half marathon of the year, the Surftown Half Marathon. The Surftown Half Marathon is a race that I am extremely excited about. I'm excited for a multitude of reasons. Number one being, look at this. I mean, this just looks like a beautiful scene, doesn't it? I'm excited about this race, not only due to the fact that I will be running along the beach in a nice and brisk September morning, but it's the second of my destination races, and this is kind of my plan moving forward. You don't always have to travel through Rhode Island to get to Boston, but I decided that on my journey I'm going to. I'm going to run in these half marathons and kind of dial in my pacing and my speed and my endurance using these half marathons. And once I hit that hour 20 mark, I will begin training for a full marathon. I need to run a qualifying time in order to qualify for Boston, and long term, that is my endurance running goal, is to be a marathon runner in the prestigious Boston Marathon. I'm restarting this trek really over the course of the last, I guess you could say the last 2 years. Last year, something kicked in where I realized I wasn't really giving everything my all. Um, and I was going through the motions. And even in the last half marathon that I ran, the Mystic Half Marathon this year, I really just was out there logging miles. I made some extreme changes over the course of the last 10 weeks to prepare for this race. My focus this session was on pacing. I did the thing that I always do, and I came out of the gates. I was like I was shot out of a cannon. Um, and that's something that I do often when it comes to races in general, but more specifically these races. Um, it, it matters the most when it comes to half marathoning. Um, I can go out and run a 5K and run my first mile in under 7 minutes and no problem, and still recover enough to bounce back and have a great overall time. When you have a long stretch of 13.1 miles, you really have to dedicate yourself to pacing yourself and keeping reserve in the tank. And that's my goal with this race here. There's always pacers when it comes to races. These races specifically, the Hartford Marathon Foundation always puts together a great event, and what they're doing this year that's special is no different than any other year. To be honest with you, they're going to have pacers for all of these races. They had pacers in the Mystic Half Marathon, which I just completely ignored because I went out there all gung ho. Listen, I'm a dog. I'm a run, and I'm gonna get it done. And eventually, I did, finishing in an hour and 48 minutes. But I want to cut 8 minutes off of that time in this race in just a few short months. Okay, in 3 months' time, what have I done? Well, since June, I ran 284 miles, my highest mileage in a month being 118, compared to the last training schedule where my highest mileage in a month was 98. So I've increased my mileage incredibly, but the thing that I'm most proud of throughout this training schedule was I stayed dedicated to the pacing. My tempo runs, I stayed on pace. And when it came to speed work, I added more speed work throughout this schedule, which is going to be extremely beneficial. In the last race I ran, there were a ton of hills and they came on after 6 miles. In this race, the elevation doesn't really jump that high at all. There's only a 207-foot elevation gain, which in every single run that I've done, aside from my tempo runs, this training schedule, I have reached that elevation. The elevation throughout this race is going to be 207 feet. And here we have a awesome map put together by Strava, which if you hit the link in the description, you can follow along with me on Strava and follow all of my training, and help me keep myself accountable here. But we're going to go through the beautiful scenic Mesquamacut Beach before we cut up into Westerly and cut back left and run through the neighborhoods of Watch Hill. There's a possibility, actually, there is a possibility that I will run into Taylor Swift out here in Watch Hill. Allegedly, she owns a house out there. Now, I know that she'll be traveling to Brazil more than likely to watch her fiance play in the Friday night game. But who knows? Maybe she'll be back to see me run, and as she sees me run by, she calls the engagement off, as Taylor Swift does from time to time, and she follows along with me and comes along for the ride. I'm just kidding. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are a beautiful couple. I would never want anything to happen to break them up. But nonetheless, getting to this point in training is sometimes it's antsy. Sometimes there's anxiety that comes with these things. For me right now, all I'm truly feeling is ready. I don't think I've felt this fresh, this relaxed heading into a race ever before in my life. This is something that I am so confident in the training that I did that listen, I'm gonna nail exactly what I want to do. I think that I'll finish in the hour 40 time that I'm giving myself. Time will tell, and that's really all it is. I'm gonna go out there and perform. The training is done. This morning, Friday morning, began my vacation. Okay, I took vacation time for this, and this is my plan moving forward, where I'm going to use my PTO and I'm going to travel up and down the coastline, and I'm going to run in different half marathons until I hit the time that I'm desiring. And once I do, it'll be time to prime myself and get ready for a full marathon and the qualifying marathon for my Boston Marathon debut. But until I get there, I'm going to have fun with this. These destination races for me are something that, I don't know, it just adds a little more luster to the racing, to the running, to the training. Like, I'm training, I'm working myself to exhaustion throughout these schedules to get to the point where I'm going to go on vacation. Like, I'm looking at this race as a vacation for me, which is something that I've never really been able to do before. Even with the Mystic Half Marathon. That was back when I was working 7 days a week. I just finally got released from that schedule last week. And my swan song to the 7-day work schedule is scheduling myself a nice little vacation. I worked very hard on a project this year. And that's what this year was all about for me. 2025 was a year to thrive. It was a year to really push myself and work myself to the bone. And here I am still standing, adding more medals to the wall. And there's nothing left to do but to do it. I did not lose all 17 pounds, but I did lose 10. And I think that's going to help me out quite a bit when it comes to reserving myself, when it comes to avoiding cramps. That's what I ran into in the last race. I cramped like crazy due to the fact that I was 216 pounds, probably around 15% body fat. And where I stand today is at 206 pounds, down 10, not bad, 14% body fat. Still have enough fat reserves to keep myself in an anaerobic state. So it's all about conditioning, and I've conditioned myself to be able to run an 8-minute pace at 138 beats per minute, which keeps me in zone 2. I'm not going to break into the lactic threshold in this race. And if I stick with the pacing for the first 10 or 11 miles and just give it all I have for the last 2, I will beat my best half marathon time of 1 hour and 45, and I will, without a doubt, beat the Mystic Half Marathon time that I was disappointed in. I'm not going to lie. But that disappointment didn't drive me to jump off the wall. It drove me to jump back on the horse and train a little bit harder. Because no matter what you think you're the best at, you have a chance to get better. I'm looking at a Clydesdale Division medal in this race. I will medal for the 200-pound and up division. Will I medal for my age bracket? I'm not sure. Probably not. This is where the elite runners really hit their prime. And these next 10 years are my prime when it comes to running, and I'm going to give it everything that I have. That's one thing that you can that's one thing you can count on me for here in this race on this day when you're listening to this. However, right now it's Friday. I'm going to zen myself back in. I'm going to finish off this podcast before I head off to my beautiful hotel on the beach in Misquamicut in Westerly, Rhode Island. So pumped about that. Just really reaping the fruits of my labor here all weekend. Not only did I work all year, 7 days a week, this is now my 15th day off, I think, in the year of 2025. I'm reaping the fruits of my labor by getting a nice hotel out there on the beach, spoiling myself, running in a race, and don't worry, the next game's already on the schedule. I will have 5 weeks to recover and rebuild and attack the Hartford Half Marathon, the first half marathon that I ever ran in back 6 years ago. It'll be my return to Hartford. This year has really been my return to the longer style of racing, and that's why I come on here and do this. That's why I'm filled with life. That's what keeps me going. It is my why. I always talk about finding your why in life. And my job, my certification, my journeyman status underneath the Department of Labor is a great thing. I'm making a great living. I have a great career. I have great opportunities, but that's not how I make my living. That's how I make my money. This right here is how I make my living, running in these races and giving me a reason to thrive. That is what that's my why. That's my why, and that's my reason why I keep on going. Um, I'm pretty much going into this race 100%, aside from this little egg that I got on my bald head here. As I was preparing my lunch, I bumped my head into the cabinet, and I'm concussed. So I'm hoping over the next 2 days I can kind of recover and bounce back from this concussion and give it my all on. I'm just messing with you. I'm gonna blow this shit out of the water, quite literally. My plan here, what I see, is me finishing on Misquamicut State Beach, running through the finish line, and diving straight into the ocean like a merman of sorts, and listening to the sirens. You see that little play on words there? I will be a merman come Sunday as this race is finished. And what's so beautiful? What's so gorgeous? What's so fantastic about this race here? Not only is it a race that I'm pumped about, and a race that I'm excited for, this race is on the first Sunday of football season. I mean, all of the planets are aligning. Everything is lining together. Today is Friday, September 5th. No surprise there. I'm not recording this on Sunday for it to be out at 4 a.m. I have big things going on today. But the world also has big things going on, and that is the debut of the 2025-2026 NFL season. And last night, we had our Thursday night kickoff between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys, who, listen, I mean, they have been through the ringer this offseason. And there's been more talk about the Dallas Cowboys than there has been surrounding the Philadelphia Eagles, who they faced off against last night. The Philadelphia Eagles are a team that is coming fresh off of a Super Bowl. Why aren't we talking about Philly more? Well, during the season, they didn't talk about Philly much either. And then they came out, and you can't even say out of nowhere, they were a dominating team throughout. They were 11-1 at one point in the season, talking about firing their coach. I definitely think that I think that Philadelphia gets a bad rap. I think Philadelphia has a great team. I think they're being led by an absolute warrior and a dog in Nick Sirianni. Um, I love his style of coaching. I love Jalen Hurts and his style of leadership. Another guy who also gets a bad rap, but a style of leadership that hasn't been that effective is the style of leadership of one Jerry Jones. You either die a hero or live long enough to be a villain. That is what Batman said. And wait, did Batman say that or Two-Face? I don't know. It was quoted in Batman. It's something that I believe in. Something that Jerry Jones believes in is a handshake agreement in the year 2025. He claims that he had a handshake agreement with their star player, Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons, arguably the heart and soul of the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones, who draws a stark comparison to one Master Yoda, made a decision that the wise Master Yoda would just simply not do. I don't think Yoda would throw Luke Skywalker off the Death Star, no matter how disrespected he felt. What's coming through the grapevine is that Jerry Jones was disrespected by Micah Parsons, wanting his agent in his agreement, in his negotiating of his deal. And so Jerry Jones shipped him off, allowed him to be traded for one Pro Bowler, Kenny Clark, who played in last night's game, because the benefit of having a defensive pass rusher come into your team 1 week before the season kicks off is that they have one job. It's see ball, get ball. So that was a good pickup. But the other good pickup were the 2 first-round picks over the next 2 years. So the next 2 drafts, the Cowboys have 2 first-round picks in each draft. So good for them. The thing about that is that the draft picks aren't here yet. That's simply what it is. The draft picks have not yet arrived. Kenny Clark, as great as he is, does not make up for Micah Parsons, and the loss of Micah Parsons was felt immediately. And Coach Brian Schottenheimer's debut as the head coach for the Dallas Cowboys. That's great and all, but the draft picks aren't here yet. And Kenny Clark, as great as he might be, he's just simply not Micah Parsons, and nobody else is aside from him. And we saw what the loss of Micah Parsons did to this team last night. Um, yeah, it started out with players spitting at each other and had fights throughout the game. But one thing we saw as a constant throughout the game was Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, 19 of 23, throwing the ball for 152 yards, throwing the ball very accurately, only taking 1 sack throughout the game, and rushing for 62 yards on 14 rushes. What he did last night was show that he's willing to do what it takes to win the rep, to win the game, to win the play, to win the series, to win the drive. Whatever it is, Jalen Hurts is a competitive winner who's willing to risk it all to win. We saw that by the way he tucked and ran. As the pockets collapsed, he found a way to bounce out of there. It's almost as if he heard all of the Cam Newton comparisons that were thrown about throughout the offseason. I think that I've always been high on Jalen Hurts. I think his composure is a great thing to have in the locker room. He never shows too much emotion. He always remains calm, especially under pressure, which is something you need to do as a quarterback in the NFL. These pass rushers, not only are they strong, they get stronger and faster as time goes on. When you go from college to the NFL, the acceleration of the game picks up so greatly, and somebody with a ton of adversity on his shoulders, such as Jalen Williams, is primed for success in this league. And that's exactly what he showed last night. Jahan Dotson being the leading receiver with 3 receptions for 59 yards. A.J. Brown was kind of taken out of the game, but Dallas Goedert was a huge target for Jalen Hurts, catching 7 of 7 targets. We want to talk about catching 7 of 7 targets. CeeDee Lamb caught 7 balls last night for 110 yards. Kind of just continuing on the path that he is a stalwart receiver with sure hands. He had 13 targets last night, which shows that he's going to remain one of the highest targeted receivers in the league. Everybody's talking about the 4 drops. You're going to drop some balls. When you have 13 balls thrown your way, you're going to drop a couple, and that's all right. I think their offense looks great. Their offense looks effective. They ran for 119 yards total last night, 54 of those yards being from their new acquisition of Javonte Williams from the Denver Broncos, who had one hell of a rookie season, and then he got hurt a little bit, and that kind of put him on a downslide there in Denver, but he's back in Dallas, and I think that's going to bode well for the Cowboys moving forward, who haven't had an effective run game. With their acquisition of Tyler Booker from the draft, this guy who just says he loves to watch the life leave the eyes of to watch the life leave the eyes of his opponents. That's something that as somebody with a football mind, that's what I want to hear an offensive lineman talk like and talk about. However, they just could not get it done last night against the Eagles. They did cover the spread of 8.5 points, which anybody who knows football knows that's wide. I mean, week 1 in the NFL, no team's really going to get blown out. Watch for that to happen now this week. But it's going to be a lot more testy. A lot of teams are going to be testing each other. A lot of teams are going to be trying new things, especially a team like Dallas, who has a brand new head coach and basically a brand new defense. They didn't really bring in a ton of players or a ton of talent, but they did lose the best player of their team. And that just, brought them along to losing the game. A team who's looking to not lose tonight are the Chiefs or the Chargers. The Chiefs and Chargers will play a Friday night game here in Brazil. The Chiefs are favored in this game. It's a home game for the Chargers, but the Chargers are 3.5-point underdogs to the Kansas City Chiefs. The Super Bowl runner-ups, I guess you could call them. What's important for me in this matchup? Well, the Chiefs bolster their offensive line this last offseason, drafting 6'5" Trey Smith from Ohio State. However, they're going to lose Rashee Rice, their standout wide receiver, for the first few games of the season as he's facing yet another suspension. This guy just cannot keep himself out of trouble. Um, I don't really. I don't want to play on the negatives here too much, but I think it's kind of crap the way he's squandering this great opportunity that's been afforded to him through his hard work and through his talent. And he's gained this opportunity to be a standout player in the league, but he's continuing to live recklessly. I mean, he was driving 110 miles an hour and hit somebody. I think that's what it was. It was a reckless endangerment, but nonetheless, their defense will bring back all the same dogs that led them to the #1 defense in the league last year, even after shipping off L'Jarius Sneed, which last year going into the season I thought was going to be a big hit. But players like Trent McDuffie stepped up and kind of locked things down on the outside. The Chiefs are a hard team to move the ball on. However, the Chargers have a brand new backfield. The Chargers drafted Omarion Hampton from North Carolina, and they picked up Najee Harris. And I think that's something that Jim Harbaugh will focus on with his team moving forward, is just pounding the rock. And if they can be effective doing that, I think they can have a great chance of success here as a team, and especially taking on the Chiefs. I think one of the biggest things that you can do to stop Patrick Mahomes is stop him from having the ball in his hand. And with somebody like Joe Alt being on that offensive line, despite losing Rashawn Slater, I think that I think that they could have success against teams like the Chiefs. And I think they could have success in the run game, period. Najee Harris, for whatever reason, is being slept on this year. So watch for him to bounce back in a major way, and watch for Omarion Hampton to make some serious strides as a rookie in this league. With the belief of Jim Harbaugh, I think your head coach having belief in you and having belief in the system, having belief in the program, is something that will propel a team forward no matter what they're up against. And I think that's something that the Chargers have. Now, they're facing off against a team who has a coach who does that great, and a coach who has pedigree in doing that in the league in Andy Reid. However, Jim Harbaugh is one of those guys that you have to root for. And so tonight in Brazil, I'm rooting for the Chargers. And this can sway you one way or another as we go over the next few games in the slate. The games that I want to highlight as we talk about Bumps football games of the week. That's something to look at, okay? You'll be hearing this Sunday morning. Did I win my Friday night pick? Okay? Take that for every bit of what it's worth, and help it let you decide who's going to win these next few games coming up on Sunday. Because when we're talking about coaches who provide a ton of belief to their program, we're highlighting that right here with this matchup. This is a homer matchup for me. Yeah, we're talking the Raiders heading into Gillette and facing the New England Patriots, who are favored in this game. Last year, the Patriots were favored in 0 games, and this year they're favored in their first home game by 2.5 points, taking on the Raiders who are a brand new team. The Raiders are fresh-faced this year, bringing in Geno Smith and Pete Carroll, a duo who's had success in Seattle. 2 coaches that bring their own flair, Mike Vrabel and Pete Carroll, both just being complete characters and just, I don't know, they're fire starters, these guys. When you look at what Pete Carroll does as a coach, he's fiery. He loves to get out there and run routes with the boys, throw the pigskin around, throw the pill around, help Geno Smith take a few reps off and throw some slants to the receivers out there. One of which being Jacoby Myers, another one being Brock Bowers, who everybody has their sights on this year after a phenomenal rookie debut. He could be one of the greatest tight ends in the league this year. and for his career moving forward, depending on how well this year goes for him. I think he's going to get a ton of targets. I think Geno Smith knows what the focus of this offense is, and they also have one more thing up their sleeve, and that was a draft pick of Ashton Genty. Who ran right through college football over the last 2 seasons playing for Boise State. But I think the Patriots can do the same thing. Why? They drafted a man named Will Campbell, a house of a man from LSU who ran over defensive linemen all year. So that's going to help bolster their run game with a speaking of forehead, four-headed running back room. Ramondre Stevenson, veteran, knows what the Patriots are all about. Jermichael Hasty can catch balls out of the backfield just as well as Antonio Gibson can. And then we have the secret weapon of Travion Henderson, the right running back drafted out of Ohio State this year. He avoided all the offseason trouble that Quinshon Judkins could not do, and he's here for week 1 of the NFL. Week 1 of the preseason, first time a ball touched his hands, he took it all the way to the crib. Did I order a Travion Henderson jersey right away? You bet your ass you did. You bet your ass I did. I'm very high on the Patriots for that reason. Not that reason alone. I mean, I'm pumped that Mike Vrabel is in the building. I think that he kind of got the shaft when it came to who our next head coach was going to be last year. Gerard Mayo, in and out, one and done. But we have 2 coaches and 2 quarterbacks that have a lot to show this year. Is Geno Smith who we think Geno Smith is? And can Drake May live up to the hype? There's only one way to tell, and there's only one pick for me to make here, and that's the Patriots. The Patriots are going to win at home. The Patriots are going to win their debut with Mike Vrabel, and they're going to cover that spread. Win by a field goal. Probably win by a couple touchdowns. Give me the Pats by 1,000,000. What's next? We talked about Micah Parsons being shifted off by Yoda Jones, and we're going to talk about his game coming up. He will be playing in the season debut, but who else will be playing in that debut? It is the Lions and the Packers. The Lions are favored. The Lions are dogs at home. They're 1.5-point dogs in Lambeau Field against the Green Bay Packers. The Packers have a lot of question marks across the field. Okay, right now their wide receiver room is they're not as highly touted as the Lions are. That's for damn sure. But Jared Goff and Jordan Love, they're going to face off against each other. Aiden Hutchinson is back and ready for vengeance after snapping his leg last year. And Micah Parsons, he's going to play with a chip on his shoulder. Yeah, he just got a bag. Okay, he just got one of the biggest contracts for a non-quarterback in the history of the league. He still has something to prove. He still has to prove that he's worth that money. The Packers benefit from the fact that he's an edge rusher, and they can focus on him rushing the quarterback, see ball, get ball, very easy assignment. However, as the season goes on, I'm curious to see how they're going to use him because you can sprinkle a little bit of Micah all over the field. As far as the wide receivers go, you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who was highlighted in the Receivers documentary series, which I finally got the chance to watch. Great. I mean, he comes from a great family. He's competitive with his brother, who is also a wide receiver in the NFL. He has that factor in his genes. Golden Tate is who the Packers are looking at as wide receiver number 1, and this is a rookie who we've never seen play before in the NFL. Granted, I'm not down on rookie wide receivers having success in this league. I think the way that receivers are developing over the last few years, it's been shown in rookie years that players just, when they have it, they have it. And there's nothing really that can stop them aside from themselves. With all that being said, I know that the Packers secondary got worse because they shipped Jair Alexander, their all-star cornerback, off this year to Baltimore. And what did the Lions do? They improved their secondary. Not only did they hit in the draft on Terrion Arnold, they brought in DJ Reed. I don't think that the Lions should be underdogs in this game, and I think the only reason that they are is because it's not at home. I mean, Granted, home field advantage will swing a spread about 2.5 points either way, so the Lions should be favored in this game. I think they get the win. I think they cover the spread, and I think the Lions have another season where they're contending in the playoffs. As a matter of fact, when we get to the end of this segment here, I will reveal who my playoff picks are. More specifically, my Super Bowl matchup. But speaking of playoff picks and Super Bowl matchup, we have a possible AFC championship matchup that we can talk about here. With the Sunday night game, the debut of Sunday Night Football of this season being the Buffalo Bills bringing Baltimore into Buffalo and taking them on at home. I believe this is the last season at Highmark Stadium. They're building a new stadium up there in Buffalo, and for their first game of this year's season, they are 1.5 point underdogs. Why? I don't really get that. I don't understand why Buffalo are 1.5 point underdogs. I think that they have everything that they had last year that gave them so much success. So it's kind of weird to see. However, Baltimore was right in it until the very end, but so was Buffalo. I mean, Buffalo went to the AFC Championship last year, and they lost by a field goal. These two teams, though, they live in the shadow of Patrick Mahomes. The last 2 years, each of these teams made it to the AFC Championship, and they ended up losing to the Chiefs. And while the Ravens lost by a toe in their season opener last year, the Bills lost their shot at a Super Bowl by 1 field goal. These teams have everything they need right now to get there. They paid all of their weapons. The Ravens brought in Jair Alexander, and the Bills brought in Joey Bosa very early in the offseason, so I think that's something that people are forgetting about. Joey Bosa, who had a ton of success with the Chargers, ran into injuries later in his tenure there, and I think that's part of the reason that he's not getting talked about as highly as he should be, or as highly as his brother Nick does. Regardless of all that, both players can be matchup nightmares if they still stay healthy this season. I have to give the home team the advantage in this one. I think they both have very effective running back committees with Ray Davis and James Cook for the Bills, and then couple that against Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson for the Baltimore Ravens. Not only is it Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen can tuck it and run at any time too. He's basically the white Jalen Hurts. Pardon me for my saying so, but I will. Josh Allen, a lot of marks on him this season. Between getting married, getting his number in college retired, being the last season in Highmark Stadium, he wants to put a banner up in that new stadium right when they open it, and I don't blame him. I don't blame him, and I think that he could. I am very high on the Buffalo Bills. I watch a team who plays them 2 times a year. They're in the AFC East. They're a division nightmare for us. They definitely took over the Patriots spot when Tom Brady went down to Tampa Bay. Will they remain there this year? That is yet to be seen. However, I think that Josh Allen's a winner. Josh Allen's a winner. His character shows that whenever he loses gracefully. He doesn't cry. He doesn't complain. He just gets back on the horse and moves forward. And I can relate to that just so much. And for whatever reason, Monday Night Football this year, in my opinion, I think they gave us a stinker. This really stinks. With all the matchups we have, with all the divisional matchups in this slate as well, like I think I might want to see the Browns and Bengals here instead, but we're gonna get the Vikings against the Bears, and the Vikings are 1.5 point favorites against the Chicago Bears here on the road. The Bears improved their offensive lines. They improved their offensive line woes in this offseason by bringing over Joe Thuney, the Chiefs' best lineman who played all 5 positions last year, it seemed like. But he's going to start at left guard for the Chicago Bears. Their defense looks to take another step behind Jalen Johnson, Kevin Byard, Kyler Gordon, and Montez Sweat up front, who's been one hell of a pass rusher. They have a ton of names on that defense, but I don't know about their offense. I don't know about Caleb Williams. He has like baby deer legs to me. He gets flustered in the pocket. He wants to scramble back 15 yards. That's something that he did last year quite a few times, is take massive sacks, not just a sack where you lose 8 yards. Okay, a sack where you lose 15, a sack where you lose 20. That is just inexperience. That is just thinking you can translate your college game to the big leagues, and it's not quite how it goes. So we saw what he was last year, still a ton of question marks around him, and there are a ton of question marks around the Vikings, who are very high on J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy didn't play last year. He had to miss his rookie year due to injury, but he is a national champion from Michigan. There's that Jim Harbaugh tie there together. 2 years ago, he won the national championship off of the back of a team who ran the ball a hell of a lot. We don't really know much about J.J. McCarthy, and that's a good thing when it comes to watching this Monday Night Football game. What are we going to see out of J.J.? Although he was the quarterback for a team that caused majority of their damage running the ball, J.J. will benefit from being in a loaded offense just like Sam Darnold did last year. And Sam Darnold went off and got a bag from Seattle. Now, if J.J. doesn't pan out to be the guy that they think they are, you got to listen for the footsteps, because who's right behind him? They just signed Carson Wentz, okay? Carson Wentz in 2017 was the MVP until he snapped his leg in half. But they have a backup plan. They have a backup in place. What else do they have? They have Adam Thielen coming back. Adam Thielen being a crafty veteran who took a little pit stop for the Panthers, stopped in Carolina, and now he's on his way back home to Minnesota, where he's from, where he went to college, where he became an undrafted Pro Bowler, where he runs a ton of crafty routes where people look at him and go, damn, how does he do that? That's Adam Thielen, okay? But not only is Adam Thielen in that locker room, Justin Jefferson, man. Justin Jefferson, I think, to me, was the point where rookie wide receivers turned the tide, and they turned it on a little bit, and they became, what did they become? They became year one dogs right away. Okay, people like Justin Jefferson, a generational talent. His first catch in the NFL was a touchdown, and his last catch in the NFL will be a touchdown. How many touchdowns will he catch this year? JJ's hoping for a lot. If all else fails, they have Aaron Jones to lean on. People sleep on that too. The Packers moved Aaron Jones to the Vikings last season. He had a productive season. Who else had a productive season? TJ Hawkinson, the sure-handed tight end, will be a huge target for the inexperienced McCarthy. I think the Vikings are pretty much loaded, just as loaded as they were last year. Coach Kevin O'Connell gets the guys going. He's great with quarterbacks. I think he's one of those quarterback guru whispering coaches who can lead anybody to success. So give me the Vikings winning outright in this game, covering the spread. I think they win by, give me 4 to 7 points. I think the Vikings are gonna hit their stride here this year. They're being talked about like an NFC Championship team, but I don't quite see them that way. Okay, I see the NFC Championship team this year being the Detroit Lions. Why? There's not a lot of moving parts there. They aren't playing with that much different of a team. Yes, they did lose both of their offensive coordinators, but they have the heart and soul of Detroit. One Motor City Dan Campbell. And they're going to face off against the Buffalo Bills, who will win the AFC Championship despite not winning the division this year for the first time in a few years. Because that's going to be the Patriots. The Patriots are going to win 12 games. The Patriots are going to win the AFC East. They are going to lose in the playoffs, unfortunately. Probably to the Buffalo Bills, if I have to guess, during their third game of the year. If that's the matchup in the playoffs that I'm predicting, that would be their third game where they play against each other. I think the Buffalo Bills and the Detroit Lions will give us one hell of a Super Bowl this year. Two offenses that are loaded with talent and two defenses that love to hit hard. And speaking of hitting hard, it's time for me to hit the road hard. I got to pack up this suitcase over here, and I'm going to head off to Racetown. It's the Surftown Half Marathon, man. And I'm pumped for it. I'm pumped for it. I'm pumped for football season. I'm riding the high of a lot of things right now. And the next time you hear from me, it'll be a complete recap of the Surftown half marathon. We'll go over the most exciting things that happened in week 1. And yes, I know you missed it this week, but we will get back to the threads. Um, in the description, you could hit the link to my Strava, follow along with my training for now and for the races moving forward. Um, what else? What else can I do here? Oh, follow me on TikTok at bookmarkswbump. Send me an email at bookmarkswbump@gmail.com if you need any help in your training. I am a nationally certified personal trainer. I would love to flex that muscle a little bit and help whoever needs it out with getting closer to their fitness goals. There's something else that I'm forgetting. Oh, yeah. As always, it's all love. God bless. I always do that. I'm a night rider. Every time that I call past midnight, I swear I get higher. Swear I gotta get higher now. I'm a night rider. Every time that I give what I got, I supply that fire. I supply that